Hello, hi, and welcome to the members webinar. This is the second of two webinars in the month of October, and happy to be with you today to share tremendous titles. And I think that titles can be such an important part of our video projects, second only perhaps after audio. I'm a huge fan and huge believer that audio is so very important to our audiences. Sometimes we miss the opportunity to really do great audio and focus so much on the video. But after great audio, I think titles set the stage for the beginning of a wonderful production, and it may be the last thing your audience remembers of your project. So we're going to focus on titles today. Let me show you the agenda here. So we're going to cover fonts briefly, colors briefly, then get into the mechanics of the Casablanca titler. Now, I am working largely in the Bogart titler today. We have two add-on titlers and then special effects titlers. I'm focusing on the basic titler that you can embellish then with these additional options. Boxes, box background, and in pages. And I think these allow us some really cool capabilities. So let's go ahead and first of all, with fonts, you may know in the Casablanca titler, there are what we call true type fonts. And TTF or true type fonts are the fonts that you are able to import into your Casablanca to use. So there's the 16 or so stock or default fonts that come with your Casablanca titler. And then we have font packs. There are 4 font packs that give you 25 each, so 100 total if you purchase those add-on fonts. But in the last number of years, we've had the ability to import true type fonts we find on our own or in our computer. And I've got a couple articles on my website how to import and find those fonts, but I want to show you one website today. And then we're going to actually download those and import those into my Casablanca. If you have a font on your computer that you want to import into your Casablanca, make sure that you make a copy of that and don't just move it from your computer's font selection. Otherwise, it will be gone and you won't have it available in your computer for other uses. But if you're importing it, make a copy of it, duplicate it, and then move it over to your Casablanca. I'm going to show you how to move it over right now. And by the way, you can import true type fonts even into Smart Edit machines and later versions of Smart Edit, of the Bogart and Bogart for Windows. This gives us, to me, this is one of the most powerful options we have for getting really, really good fonts in our system, because I think the fonts kind of set the stage. And you can see 4 different fonts available here. King Sting's Christmas font, a charming font. And this is from a website. Let me take you to that website right now. And the website is called allfreedownload.com. Okay, so if I go to the beginning of this page, let's see here. There you go. So I go to free fonts. Okay, and take a look on the right side. See this? Free for personal use. Okay, download this font, etc. You want to be aware, and different websites are going to have different options for you. So like this one here, Donationware, they recommend that you donate to use this font, especially if you're using this in work for hire. You want to, I would say, definitely contribute, because that's like a legally binding agreement. Okay, so free for personal use, it's free if I want to use this in my home projects, in my family videos, my home videos. But if I want to use it commercially, then I want to look for fonts that say 100% free. Okay, 100% free means that I can use it in my commercial work as well. Now I can come up here and let's do Safari. Let's say I've got some Safari video that I'm working on, and you can see that I have some really cool fonts here. So there's free for personal use, 100% free. There we go. And so some of these, the search tool, I'm like, I don't know that I totally agree that that looks like Safari stuff. And we'll go ahead and download one though here, free for personal use. So I can click download this font and it downloads onto my computer. Now, I am hosting this webinar on my Mac computer. Then we're going to go over to my Windows computer where I'm running my Casablanca 4 Studio Pro. But I'm going to go ahead and hide this screen temporarily. And let's see, do I have my thumb drive attached? I do. I've got my USB thumb drive attached here. So let's go ahead and open that up. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to open up the Finder. There we go. And I want to look for that font. So TTF. And it'll find me all the true type fonts. Okay. So let's see which one I just downloaded here. There's some other fonts that I've downloaded previously. Let's see, what was that font called that I just was looking at? It should have, okay, that was called Fontalicious. See the title? Rather, the author is Fontalicious. It's Surf Safari. So let's go back to my Finder here. Surf Safari. Name matches Surf Safari. There's the font. Okay, it's in a folder, and there's the font itself. So it'll be named with .ttf. That's the actual font. That's what you want to move into your Casablanca. That's what your Casablanca will read, know, and understand. So I'm going to drag and drop that into my USB drive, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to eject that, and we're going to pull it over to my Casablanca in just a moment. But first, I want to show you something else before we actually go into the Casablanca. So let's come back here, and that's here, colors. I want to talk for just a moment about colors. I think some people are less aware of this, and some people don't spend a few moments considering this, and it's very, very important. So the colors of your font. Well, first of all, why do we have titles? This may seem like a silly question, but why we have titles is we want the audience to be able to read it. We're imparting or sharing information. That's the purpose of a title, right? And an opening title, hopefully, sets the stage, sets the scene, or compels the audience to want to stay for the program or continue viewing. But overall, the reason we're putting text on screen is we want to share some information. We want the audience to get the information. So it needs to be readable. People need to be able to see it and read it clearly. A couple of quick tips. Avoid serifed fonts. Heavily creative fonts. Now, the ones that I chose, and you'll see in a moment here, have a little bit of creativity to them, but they're not difficult to read because there are some fonts that are put out that are like, whoa, I have to go slowly to make sure I'm understanding which character is which, because that's the readability. So avoid heavily serifed fonts, like old Germanic fonts. You can get fonts that have like a Germanic Old English look, but be careful you don't select ones that are so heavy that the audience can't read and to make out, is that an E or an F, right? So you want it to be readable. The other rule of thumb that I've been teaching for more than 30 years regarding titles on your videos is leave it on screen so the audience can read through it 3 times fast. Chet Davis Productions, Chet Davis Productions, Chet Davis Productions. There, and then get it off screen. You don't want it on so long that you bore the audience and it's in the way of the rest of your production. And you want to be careful. Some people put titles on too short in terms of the duration, the length of time, that the audience gets frustrated. They weren't able to read it. Remember, the purpose of having a title is making it readable. You want the audience to read and consume and understand what you're communicating. So have it on there so you can read through it 3 times fast. Okay, that's a quick tip. The other is colors. You want to make sure you select colors for your titles that are in contrast with the background or the rest of the video. Otherwise, it's less readable. There we are again, the readability, the ability to discern, to make out the text, what it's saying. On my website, and you can search in Google or Bing, and there's lots of different versions of this called the color wheel. And here's the color wheel. I'll put the link in the show notes on the article, on the recording of the video, that shows this color wheel. What do you mean, Chet? What is this? Okay, so let's say your background is like green. See the green up here in the upper right corner, like in the 2 o'clock position, if this was a clock? The color that's directly in contrast with green is found directly opposite. So I follow this straight line, and the color red is 180 degrees on the color wheel. Here's the color blue down here in like the 4 o'clock position. If I want to find its contrasting color, I go on a straight line, 180 degrees opposite, and the color orange. So if I have a mostly blue background or a blue scene, the color orange is going to be the most high contrast in terms of color, in terms of the hue. So you can see these are the darker colors on this side of the wheel, and over here are the lighter colors. So this can really help define your titles, pull them out of the background and pop. Okay? Questions on that or thoughts? I'm going to go ahead and throw this over to my Casablanca here. I want to make sure you're actually hearing me too. I believe you are hearing me. Yeah. Okay. Somebody go ahead and type in the text box, seeing the screen, or I've got you, or raise your hand if you would in the user control panel and let me know you see the Bogart screen there. All right. Excellent. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to remove my webcam because we don't need that at this point in time. And let's go in now. So I have my USB flash drive, which I am inserting into the Casablanca. And I am running the Casablanca 4 Studio Pro. And let's go ahead and go into project settings. And I do have an HD file, 1920 by 1080 at 30p. And so let's say I'm going to come into the titler here. And you can see I am on the Bogart titler, even though I do have Title Studio and Vertigo titler enabled on my Casablanca. I am working in the Bogart titler for a couple reasons. One, honestly, I find that the Bogart titler is the most versatile, the most, in addition to be user-friendly, I find it the most powerful, capable titler that I find that I go to and use more regularly than any of the other titlers. So it's my go-to, to be honest with you. The other ones have some nice functionality, but I find that the standard Bogart titler is ideal. The other thing is that there's more universality across all the platforms. So for someone working on a previous system, the skills you get in here are directly transferable. All right, so let's go ahead and click up here. And let's get the correct keyboard. So I've got 2 computers and 2 keyboards in front of me, and I'm just clicking the wrong keyboard. No wonder it's not doing anything, right? All right. So we've selected our font. We talked briefly about font choice and about color choice. Let's go ahead and bring up fonts. So I click on the font button here, okay? And I'm going to import fonts. So I click import, and on this removable drive, you see the fonts here that are true type fonts. So I can click open, okay? Import fonts. So let's go Tribeca TTF, open. Import fonts. There we have the fonts, right? Click OK, click open. And there we have Surf Safari. Okay, so I just imported that. Now you see this little X in the upper left corner? Okay, that tells me it is a true type font. Unlike the other fonts that were built into the system, with the X in the upper left corner, that is a font that was loaded into my Casablanca. So we've done this one. Here's Halls for Halloween, believe it or not. And there's this cool one, I think, for Christmas, which is a nice one. King Things Christmas. Isn't that cool? So like it's sitting on snow with snowflakes in the ground. I think that's really an attractive font. And let's come over here to Howls for Halloween. Now take a look, and this is what threw me off momentarily. You see these four listed fonts at the top. There is an underscore before them. That is the font file, but not the actual font. So what we want is the one that doesn't have a prefix. It just starts with the font title. And that's what you're going to bring the actual title in. Okay, Tribeca. So we can go ahead and select the size of our font. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and type this. Bali, Indonesia. And here's a perfect example of titles that are not in contrast with the background. I have white water in the waterfall and white font. Okay, that's just not going to do it, Chet, right? So in this version of the Bogart titler, you know, this is very similar to what we've had in the past. It's a different layout. We have the ability to add color or pattern. Okay, and again, I can pick a color from the background. And if I wanted to do the opposite, I would theoretically choose red, because red is 180 degrees opposite green on the color wheel. But I do not recommend using red in your titles. The one exception, if you're doing a Halloween horror video, a slasher movie with lots of blood, which it's not my cup of tea, but you know, if you wanted to do that, you could do that. Then we have the ability to adjust the alpha channel. I do find that the alpha channel or transparency makes a title a little bit more classy. Okay. Much bigger to stand out. The thing that I like too in the current titler is we can go for a larger font size right from here without having to go into the system. Okay. Without having to go into the size and the style there. So I'm going to make Bali even larger, okay, which I find just nice, okay. And then style, so we can, and as you likely know, I'm just going to zip through a couple of these because you likely are very aware of lots of these. So we can do a gradiated color, and we can select like a 2-color option, which will give me, and it's color 1 and color 3. So let's go for an orangish to, okay, we'll go for like a purple blue. Okay, and you can select how that appears on screen. I tend to prefer one of these 4, I think, look the most classy. This to me is a bit gimmicky, as are these, but again, you probably have applications when they are appropriate, and that's what, you know, we have to leave up to you as the creator. That's why there's creativity coming in here. Okay, and then I almost always select an edge or an outline, okay, that is a contrasting color, and I regularly use a drop shadow. Now I prefer drop shadow in the bottom right corner like this. You can adjust the distance of the shadow and then smooth it out. I like a diffused shadow. To me, that's much more creative looking. Okay, so again, what I've done is I've added an outline, and you can adjust the color for the outline. I like a dark color on the outline, makes it crisp and stand out. I've selected a drop shadow simply by increasing the size. The drop shadow is always there, but you're not going to see it until you increase the the distance of the shadow, the distance away from the subject. And then the direction, the color, I wanted a dark shadow. The only time I've used a lighter shadow color is if I have a black background. Otherwise, it's not going to stand out. And then I like to diffuse or smooth the shadow. To me, again, it's much more classy looking than just a hard edge shadow. But again, there's, that's Coke and Pepsi. In other words, that's what your preference is more than anything else. I rarely use this 3D look. It's just not my cup of tea. I could italicize it and then smooth it, diffuses it. And if you're using what's called an aliased font, which is a jaggy edged font, you can smooth it out with this tool. This I don't think I need though, okay? So there we have Bali now. Isn't that cool? And these are not going to function because I have two fonts in here. What I can do is I can adjust the character spacing. Let me show you what I mean. This allows you some creativity. So I can increase the space between these characters, between these four letters. See how they're pretty tight together? If I wanted to space that out under the Option key, character spacing will set up. See, it spreads them out, okay? And that's under the Opt or Option key. Character width will increase the thickness of the font itself, okay? And then the last one, line spacing, is if you have more than one line. See, I have Bali and then I have Indonesia here. If I wanted to reduce the space between those two lines, and I actually do want to do that, I can diminish the amount of space between those. So tons of flexibility. I am choosing to keep the font different on each line. And this is an important function inside the Casablanca titler. When you're in the titler, it's called line-oriented titling. What that means is each line can have separate color, style, etc. Not each letter. Okay, inside of the other titlers, you can have each letter. Okay, so inside of the why am I having a brain freeze? In the two other titlers that are add-on titlers, you can have letter by letter. You can do letter by letter, but you have to do separate boxes to do that here. I don't find too many occasions when that's necessary or appropriate, to be honest with you. Now, I can change, of course, I can change a pattern. I can even bring in the graphics from inside Candy Factory that gives me 239 polychromatic or multicolored titles. So I can put bamboo inside of there. So I have bamboo inside of Indonesia now. But if I like the colors I've got going on up here, I can copy them onto the other lines by using this button here, okay? Copy font and style to all lines. Now what it did is it copied the size down there and the character width, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go back here. Now that I've got this on here, I want it to fit just too small now. And I do want it to be a little bit more, I don't want the characters, the letters to be spaced out so much. So again, I'm going to go into options and bring this character spacing, let's bring it down to, I believe it was 100. And the character width, I'm going to bring it back to 100, which is our default. I want it a little bit spread out. I want it to go to the edges of the word Bali. So I'm going to come to options, do a little bit of character spacing and a little bit of width. That's pretty good, right? Now, maybe I want it to come down a little bit more too, and that's this line spacing here. And it goes actually by this line up here. Here you go. What do you think? Nice, huh? All right. So those are some of the most powerful options in terms of our creative font capabilities. Let's go into the boxes, okay? So each title, see this bezel, this black and white dotted line? That's a title box, okay? Now I can change the size of that box by grabbing the edge, but when I go too far, you see it's going to cut off some of the title, some of the characters. There's an easier way that I like to use, and that's these buttons down here. This goes full screen. The title box is now centered in the full screen. I can do kind of inset, and you see we have the dashed and dotted lines. Why that's important is I could come over here now and center that top, center, and bottom inside of the box. And then we have, left justification, center justification, right justification. But what I can do as well is I can choose this minimum size. And what this does is after you type your font, type your title first, then click on this button, minimum size, and this will shrink the title box so it just includes the title you've created. Then we can freely position it wherever we want on screen. Like I may want to position this over here on the left, and let's preview that. And we have the title come in on the left side, which I like that better than just directly in the center. To me, it's a much more creative look. Don't you agree? Nice look to that. So that's how I freely move my titles around screen. Again, how you do that, like when you come into the titler, it's probably like this normally. So what you want to do is select your boxes, type in your title first, get it the size you want, the character spacing, the line spacing, etc. And then choose this button here, minimum size. Then you can click position. You can also adjust the size by clicking on the edge, but pay close attention to the edges of your characters and make sure you're not cropping them like that, because that'll show to the audience. The audience will have that cut off, and that's not a good look. And then again, position lets us move it freely around screen. The other thing about titles is be careful about getting close to the edge, too close to the edge, because some displays or monitors, it's less of an issue nowadays with computer displays. But back in the day, when we were producing content primarily for televisions in the home or office, and people were playing this on their videotape players or on DVD players, many home televisions, especially CRTs, could get misset, misadjusted over time or by moving them around, and part of the video won't be seen on the edges. We had what's called a safe title area. So it still is advantageous to move your titles in at least 10% around all the edges of your display so they're not bumping right up against it. Okay? So those are boxes. Now the cool thing is, too, I can have multiple boxes. In fact, let's do this. Let's go here, and I'm going to remove the word Indonesia. Where'd my Bali go? There it is. Okay. So I only have Bali. Okay. So I'm going to do Bali and shrink that in. Okay. Oh, I see. See this? Even though I'm not seeing a character, the Casablanca sees a line there. There is a space there. So to get rid of that, I'm going to backspace, or you can delete that line and then shrink the title. Huh. It's not. There we go. Okay. I want to see Bali. So there's my box. There's one box on screen. Now we're going to add a second box by clicking New. And see where it says Box 1 of 1? Now click New. Okay. And what you'll notice is when I add a second box, it inherits or takes the style from the previous box. See how it's got the color, size, character width, etc., etc., etc. So I'm going to come back over here to text, reduce the size. Not quite that reduction. Line spacing, character space, get this down. I think I had about 115. That's better. Okay. So now we're going to take this second box How do I know which box I'm on? See, it says box 2 of 2. When I click over here, it's box 1 of 2. So what I'm affecting, changing, or modifying is the box that's currently selected. I'm going to min size this one, minimum size this one. And let's reposition this. And it's being odd that it's not showing me the full text. Okay. Now, what you can do with boxes is really cool, is I can put a background in a box, okay? So I can go to boxes and see this, background. Generally speaking, our background is transparent. It's clear, but we can add a background. So I'm gonna come over here again to the Bogart SC and choose this guy, or we can just choose a solid color if you prefer. So we can just choose a single color. Let's say we're going to choose a single color, click on color 1, and then we can add the color we want. And then we can make it transparent. First, let's make it just full on color. Okay, so there's a full-on color box. And we can reduce the margin around the edges. That to me doesn't look great. But if I want to adjust the transparency level, so it's showing me the checkerboard in the background is relative to the color. See that? So now, and this works well if you have a video that has multiple colors in the background. So I have darker colors in this waterfall, and I have the color white, the frothy water. That can make it a challenge to be readable, but by adding a semi-transparent background, it kind of pulls the letter, the fonts out of the scene. Okay, and again, you can totally change those colors. So if you wanted it to be green, which doesn't really work for this background in my mind, it's too similar to the background. I would definitely do a contrasting color if I was choosing to do this. That kind of looks ugly, Chet. Actually, that purplish color I thought worked better than most. And again, the transparency. Now, what's cool about this is we have the ability, let's do that here. Now, the other thing is by selecting box number 1, again, box 1 of 2, and if I like the color background I have selected and I wanted to add it to all the other boxes, that's what this button is for right here, copy background to all buttons on this page. So now both boxes, and I move back and forth using this arrow or by clicking directly on them. Excuse me. Okay. Now they're fading in with this slight color. So let's exit that. And so that's through fading pages. But what's nice is when you see the word box here, fading box, okay, it allows us, let's do preview that. You can fade in the boxes, okay? And another one here, let's do boxes. So I can have them fade out in succession, which is kind of cool. So there's Bali, you see Bali and then Indonesia, but let's do, it's 11 seconds long. Let's try this one here. There's Bali, oh, come on, Chip. Let's try. Yeah. So again, something you can play with in the system. I want it to fade out, and that doesn't make sense. So yeah, to me that should be, the page should be different pages, but so I want Bali to pop on and then Indonesia like that. There we go. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And any of the other effects that have box, when you see box, it can treat each box separately. Cool, right? And then moving box, the direction they're going to move across screen. So it gives you some real nice options, and those are built right into the system. So those box options are just part of the system. Okay? Questions, comments, answers. Okay, those are boxes. Okay? The other thing to play with, and let me throw up another, let's go. Got a 13-second long clip of villagers walking in Bali. Let's do through fading pages. And you're probably aware of this, but just to make sure. So the base scene is 13 seconds long. If I only want the titles to be on the first 8 seconds, we're going to come over here and click on the length or the duration of the box, click on range. And so right now it's parked on the full length of the scene. Let's say I want the scene to come on for 1 second and then the title come on. So I'm going to trim this 1 second less. So instead of 13:05, we'll make it 12:05. Okay. And if I will only want it on the first 8 seconds, we're going to trim this down to 8 seconds long. Okay. Now my title will come on after 1 second and remain on screen for just 8 seconds. But let's say I want to do 2 different titles. So let's go here. And that's what we use pages for. Okay, page 1. Mengwi Village. And let's choose a font, a different font. Not fire, okay. Now that's in the way of the people's faces, right? So in this case, I would get it the size I want it. Copy that to all lines. Then we're going to come to boxes. So incorporating the several things that we learned today and shrink that down. And now I can position that off to the right side, which is kind of a nice place for it. And it's still a little bit away from the edge. And then I want a little bit of color in there. So again, that's under text and style. And if you have Candy Factory, that is the most spectacular collection of masks and patterns that you have available to yourself to really do some really classy, cool looking backgrounds. And to switch this back to original, so it's just going to retain the original color. And that is way too transparent. 87%, that's better. Okay. Oh, that's nasty looking. Bad, Chet, bad. That works for me. Okay, copy that. But I'm going to add an edge or outline because that's going to pull it out. And again, drop shadow, which you can see to me makes a dramatic difference both in the quality and the classiness, but also in the readability, right? Totally changes its readability. So that's page number 1. And by default, you're only going to have one page, but we're going to add a second page. So I'm going to add a page. It adds a second page. And now I'm going to put Bali, Indonesia. And it inherits the... and what's cool is we can put this however we want. We can do Bali, Indonesia like this and make the text smaller. And I'm going to put that at the bottom. And how we do that, again, first I'm going to get the style just perfect. So again, there is an outline, but I want to add that drop shadow. And if you have multiple lines of text, make sure the drop shadow is going all in the same direction. Otherwise, you live in a universe with more than one sun, and I mean sun, S-U-N. Okay, position that down on the bottom of the screen. And now to preview that, Mengwi Village, Bali, Indonesia. So it will divide up that time in your title into 2 sections. And because I have 2 pages with a title that's 8 seconds long, it divides that title 4 seconds and 4 seconds. And the more pages you put in, it'll just continue to equally divide and break that up. Okay? Questions, comments, answers. So that's boxes, that's pages. Now let's show you a couple of what I would call nice and fancy titles. In fact, we're going to pop over here first before we get into add-on software. In the webinar from the last weekend, where I focused on creating custom thumbnails for your online videos, which is if you post stuff on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, any social media on your own website, I encourage you to go back and review that webinar. It's the first October members webinar. It's already in the members area for your review. I talk about and I demonstrate and I show and I teach you how to make custom thumbnails for your videos. You can just do it within the system, but I also show you how you can use a free piece of online software, a web tool called Canva, to create your own compelling, impactful, useful video thumbnails that's going to make your content more attractive to viewers. One of the things we talked about in that webinar is this right here, and that is what's called a video wrapper. So, and a wrapper with a W, not like a musician rapper. So if I had a montage, here's an edited video showing footage of safari in Kenya, and let's say my client is a safari outfitter and I want to make them a video. They've hired me to make a video to promote safaris in Kenya. What I can do is just put the video up, put titles on, but then what you're seeing a lot of marketing in online video nowadays is where they do an inset, and I used BorderX HDV to create this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to throw that up on top, right? Bring it into the titler, and then we can add text. Africa, not Afrida. Okay. Let's change that style of the font to make it something more readable, Chet. I don't like that at all. So let's go here let's go in the standard Bogart SE, and we're going to go patterns, monochromatic. Or let's do polychromatic, and let's make them, I want masks, that's it. Okay, go this guy. Let's go to color. That's nice. Almost the colors of the Kenyan flag here. Okay. And we want it to be more, let's go like this though. Okay. That's why it's transparent. This color is not transparent. Good. Okay. Click OK. And it should change those characters. Perfect. So what I've got up here is I have the horizontal scroller, enter edit text, and I have the horizontal scroller, the box options, see, at the top. So when we preview that, it's going to scroll across the top, right to left. And what you'll see in a lot of the online marketing videos is things like this, where there is text to bring the video alive. A great percentage, and I'm trying to remember if it's between 65 and 85% of online video, Facebook, Instagram, etc., is consumed with the volume off. So that's why text is becoming more and more important with online marketing videos. So I have scrolling text at the top. I could add a second box and put it at the bottom, and it's going to be scrolling text as well. Let's just put click below, because if I'm putting this in online on an online destination, Facebook, Instagram, on a website, etc., I'm going to have a link below the video with details and also the option for people to click to find out more details. Click below for your free ebook to plan your perfect African safari. Okay, and I would choose to do this one in a different color. Okay, we can reverse that, and it's not. Let's just go straight pattern, multiple colors. I'll click OK. And what we want to do is reduce that box down across the bottom, and then click boxes, position it, and position it down in the bottom. And let's preview that. Okay. So typically I wouldn't have double scrolling like this. I may just have it on screen. So what I would do if I wanted to do that, enter edit text. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this bottom box. So box 2, I'm going to delete, exit this. I'm going to make a scene of this, place it in the storyboard, create a scene in the scene bin as well. But probably what I want to do is create a scene in the scene bin. So it's going to go ahead and render that title going across the top. And it's rendering that video. It's going to make a scene and put it in my scene bin. The reason we're doing this is I will have a composite scene that I can add a second set of different title effects on top of it. So this is another way you can get really creative in your titles. So when I come back to the scene bin, there's my horizontal scroller. We're going to add it to the end of the storyboard. And again, it has the built-in, it's got the built-in text across the top. See right there? Text across the top. And now I'm going to come to the titler, and we're just going to add through fading pages. Click add, enter edit text, and we'll get rid of that text, and we'll choose a different font. By the way, graphic designers recommend no more than 2 different fonts, 2 to 3 different fonts tops on the same page. So be aware in your titling as well. not to get so creative and have 5 different fonts. So I'm going to do click below, choose style. We're going to go with a straight color this time. We'll just go for an orange. Let's go for an outline, and we're going to go for the shadow. And I like the shadow in the bottom. There's nothing gospel about where I put my shadow, by the way. That's totally up to your own creativity. Click below, then we're going to do boxes. We're going to reduce size. It's really not doing what I want it to do when I do it. Okay, and position that down here. Click below. Now I'm going to add a second page. Click below for your free. And now instead of doing the box options, I can just shrink it down like this until I see that it's hidden the text. Cut boxes, position that for your free. And let's add a third page. That's the second page. Add a third page. Ebook. Now we could say brochure, but it's not as exciting as an ebook. Same thing, but ebook. Again, shrink it down. Now the other thing I could do is, let's show you this guy here. So let's say, and this is another kind of power user tip, I'm going to go back to my previous page, and let's move this out of the way here. So if I really like this style, the color, the edge, the drop shadow, the softness of the drop shadow, okay, I can come to style and I can archive this. So let's save it. Let's save it as Chet Safari titles. Click save. Okay. All right, done. Now let's go to the second page, and I can go to text, style, and load archives, and select check Safari titles, and boom, done. So I don't have to do that every time. But first I want to position that down in the bottom here. Text, style, archives, and since I've already saved it, created it and saved it, I can load it, left click OK, and it's done. So now our finished piece. And again, what I've done is I've got 3 pages. I probably would want to add more text, but it's spreading it out evenly. I guess I have 4. Huh? So by using the scene button, I can create text upon text upon text. Let's do one more and show you that, because I want to show you this ability in your system. Let's exit that. We're going to go ahead and create or render that. Effects plus scene in the scene bin. So it's just going to add the text at the bottom of the screen. Because we have the ability as well to add in graphics. So what I did is I went back to one of my favorite websites, which I featured in last weekend's webinar, Pixabay, P-I-X-A-B-A-Y, Pixabay, which provides you with a collection of royalty-free, so cost-free, royalty-free, legal to use graphics. A lot of them I use as images, but you can also select vector graphics, which are illustrations that lets you do this. So you can load in things like, let's come over here. So if I select a pattern, so you can do things like this little giraffe, or I can bring in, we're going to import image, and I have a jaguar, which we're not going to see in Africa because they don't have jaguars in Africa, but we'll pretend they do. They have cheetahs instead. Okay, cancel that. So, and I can bring that into the titler. Okay, so let's go to the title we just created here through fading pages, Make sure it's the right one. Yep, there it is down below. Add that to the storyboard. And we could do graphics there, or I can come over here. There's the through fading pages. Come down to special, come down to pattern 2 or pattern 3. You may know pattern 3 is the newer option that allows for us to fade in and fade out. So we're going to select a pattern. Let's select our Jaguar. And because it's a PNG, a vector graphic, portable network graphic, you see the checkerboard is transparent. And we can even rotate it if we wanted to, but I want it just on its regular axis here. And we can position that. Let's make it smaller because that's way too big. And position that off to the side. A little bit bigger because it's nice if it kind of goes over the video, giving kind of a three-dimensional look to it, right? And now when we preview that, you see the video, and there it is. See, you can have images. Okay, so it's kind of weird that the giraffe walks into it, but you could do multiple graphics and scene after scene on top of that. One more thing I want to show you. We're just a couple minutes shy of the top of the hour. And we've done this before, but I think anytime we talk about titles, I would be remiss if I didn't share just a couple mentions about Candy Factory. So Candy Factory, as you likely know, gives us this ability to where we can, let's go here. We can take an image and Tyler. Transitions. So Bali, Indonesia. So what I did is I just took white text on a black background, made a scene of that, put it behind the current scene, start the Candy Factory program, which is an add-on piece of software. And there are multiple options. I have a 2 DVD set on this, but what's nice is you can just come down here to archives and load one of the hundreds of presets or save your own. Let's do water. Ew. That was a little bit too much. And you adjust where the light is. You can adjust the edging, a glow around it. You can adjust the 3D look of the titles. Or you can invert the mask, what is called keyhole titling, okay? Very, very cool. And here's an example of that where I did transitions. Again, same thing. Launch the program. So what we have is we have selected a background with a light, and you can adjust the position of the light here. And the waterfall is coming through the letters, and I have a finished version of that, which you see right here in this. So really allows for some real creativity in your Casablanca title. So just some great capabilities. All right, so let's go ahead and let's close out this session. Chet Davis, Casablanca Expert, saying thanks for joining me. I hope you found today's session useful, interesting. If you found something new, or maybe it was something that you reviewed that you've learned in the past or heard of in the past or maybe done in the past but forgot, it's a great opportunity for you to practice that. So I invite you to open up your Casablanca this afternoon, in the next couple days or the coming weekend, and take a few minutes to practice one of the things you learned or saw in today's webinar that you'd like to incorporate into your own video work, because only then will it become something that you do regularly. So practice, 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 everything that I showed you, you are capable of doing. If you have questions about step-by-step, I will certainly be happy to refer you to tutorials I already have in existence on the website. And if I don't have it, I'm happy to create a new short tutorial, video tutorial or otherwise. Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you taking the time. I know your time is valuable, and I hope you found this valuable and useful to you. Please do share with other colleagues if you're on social media about the value you learned in today's session. Next month's webinar, the month of October, I've decided it's time. I've got a couple of inquiries from website members who asked about exporting stuff, and there's lots of questions. How can I export for this purpose and this purpose? And hey, Chet, I'm not understanding all the export options we have in the editor today. So the November members webinar is going to be all about exports, And my next short video coming out this weekend dealing with my Casablanca chat with Chet will be focused on upgrading or updating your Casablanca. So one of our colleagues was asking about, hey, Chet, how I'm not seeing really clear definition on the macro system website about, the steps to update your software, the proper steps and where you find the video files, etc. And I know there was at least one person in the Casablanca community. I saw a thread on social media who updated to a version that's released in Europe, in PAL, but not in the US yet. So you want to be careful and thoughtful. It may be fine, but it's safest to allow the US beta testing and NTSC to go forward. Casablanca expert Chet Davis saying thanks for joining me today. I, again, appreciate your support and your business, and invite you to go out there now and make it a great day. Bye-bye.